Okay, hello and welcome to this tactical analysis of the UEFA Women's Champions League final between Barcelona Femeni and Olympique Lyonnais. Before we get into this, if you enjoy this content, please give it a thumbs up. I'm trying to take on board a little bit of feedback that I got from Reddit saying I should shorten my videos to about 5 minutes if possible and focus on only one or two tactical things. So I'm going to try and be as quick as possible here. So the first thing to mention would be the influence of the referee. Typically you want to avoid mentioning them. They should just be a passenger, but I think especially for Barcelona or Spanish fans, the referee had undue influence. Listening to the Spanish dazzling commentators, they were quite perplexed that the first yellow card she gave, I think, was to Mapillon very late on due to dissent. And they just thought, because of the way that the referee was refereeing, it didn't allow Barcelona to be able to build up a rhythm and just generally prevented them from being able to impose their game. Briefly on Hermoso, typically playing as a false nine, she's looking to drop to support build-up with the rest of the midfielders, whether that was central as well as also going into wide spaces. In the central spaces, Renard, as I mentioned, absolute monster defensively, happy to track her, especially in this central space. Not necessarily going to follow her out wide, but overall I'd say that Lyonnais were really good at being able to prevent Hermoso from having too much of an influence. She was subbed off with Oshawala replacing her in the second half. Oshawala provided a different kind of threat, and she was both happy to drop off. Not necessarily as intricate play with Oshawala dropping off, but she was then really happy to press when Lyonnais were looking to try and play around the back, as she would put that energy, that effort, a little bit more than Hermoso into pressing and created a number of opportunities for herself that way. But then also she's looking to try and run in behind more than Hermoso is and stretch the Olympique Lyonnais defense that way. And also there was like a change in the way that Barcelona were looking to kind of create chances with Oshawala on, with a lot more crosses into the box. With that, I think we've covered the majority of the Barcelona tactics. You could talk about maybe Binyag, Koronovic or Liga Martins coming on, but I don't think they really changed the system when those players came on. Oshawala was, I think, a little bit more of an impact on the system. And with regards to Olympique Lyonnais, the key thing really was just those counter-attacks and the fact that when they looked to counter-press, which they did on occasion, as well as also pressing in Barcelona's half, typically in a 4-3-1-2, where you'd have Hegerberg and Cascarino, the right winger, come inside. So Cascarino's the right winger, she'd come to instead look to try and press the left centre-back for Barcelona. They would look to try and press Barcelona in their defensive third. Hegerberg, during the counter-attacks, is looking to act as the focal point, but also she would happily run in behind with Cascarino and the other forwards, Macario, Mallard, etc., supporting her. These guys in Cascarino and Mallard did an exceptional amount of work. Moving on to how Lyon managed the game, obviously benefited initially from the referee being lenient on their level of aggression, with the Barcelona players didn't like, but then also they were really good tracking back and preventing Barcelona from having too much spaces, despite trying to overload the back line. And especially on this left hand side, there was a focus on the defense of this side. So eventually Mallard comes off in like the 70th or 80th minute, is replaced by Morini, so that they have both Batcher and Morini, both left backs on this side, and just prevent, I think at this point Koronovic was on this side, and you also have Graham Henson, so you have just a lot of firepower on that side. But Lyonnais defended that really well with these substitutions. And with that, I think we've kind of covered the key aspects. There will be a tactical breakdown in the description down below. Okay, so to demonstrate a couple of the tactics mentioned earlier, I'm going to have a look at two examples, one in the 18th/19th minute and then one later in the 50th minute. So starting with the 18th minute, we've got Olympique Lyonnais building up from the back. They've got this 4-1 shape, with Barcelona trying to press them in this 4-2-4 shape and then pressing towards whichever side Lyonnais pass towards. So the next thing that I thought it was interesting to have a look at was just how Barcelona react here, counter-pressing. As soon as the ball comes into play and they lose it from their throw-in, they immediately at Olympique Lyonnais and trying to force them to play as quickly as possible, hopefully as erratic and as inaccurate as possible. But then we also see Lyonnais, as we mentioned, looking to hit Hegerberg as soon as possible. So those clearances aren't actually clearances, they become almost like long through balls or passes, just generally looking to focus those clearances at Hegerberg, and she made it stick. Anyway, eventually we see the Lyonnais attempt a counter-attack, failing, and then they look to try and play it out in the wide spaces, drag Barcelona around, and they have their fullback trying to help create a distraction for their forward. Yeah, just a lot of dynamism in the Olympique Lyonnais play. And then looking towards the 50th minute chance. So the first thing that I thought was worth pointing out was just how slow the Lyonnais player was to getting the ball. This is just good game management, that's an air quote. So whilst Lyonnais used that time to slow down the play, break look at Barcelona's rhythm. Once the ball comes back into play, they're back to their dynamism, and we look at them using skill, guile, playing it up the wing, and then using, like I said, dynamism and pace to break and just take advantage of how they've broken Barcelona's rhythm, eventually creating a chance, a shooting chance. Easy save, but regardless. At this point from Barcelona's building up out of the back, it's nice to see here the movement by Rolfo. So we talked about during the tactics section, that back three for Barcelona. So we have our right back in Torrejon staying deeper with the rest of the defenders, whereas Rolfo is looking to, as soon as possible, get high up on that left hand side. And as we mentioned with Caldente, the left winger is dropping. She's moving with the rest of the midfielders, looking to try and help, whether it's Guijarro or Alexia Putellas or Bonmati, build up. So I really like this scenario just because, one, we got to see the defensive shape of Lyonnais during this move. We had Cascarino, who we mentioned, as like the second centre forward during the press. She's dropping back into her defensive shape. We've got this 4-2-3-1 or 4-5-1 defensive shape by Olympique Lyonnais, with the 4 defenders, the 4 in midfield, and then Macario dropping as that CAM to help defensively, whereas Barcelona are looking to try and have both Caldente, this being your left winger, helping with this progression, this possession for Barcelona, and just trying to find and exploit the spaces that they can. Typically on this right hand side, as we mentioned in the tactics session, you're going to have Graham Hansen start out wide, but she'll be helped by, in this case we have Caldente, but typically it's going to be Bonmati. They're looking to try and get into this space, and just one of these three are looking to try and pull the left back dispatcher for Olympique Lyonnais out of her, like this left back position near to Renard, to try and create this space for Barcelona to be able to attack with any one of those three. But even if that doesn't work, you see here when the play breaks down, you see how much space Rolfo could have had if Barcelona played it out to her side. But then also you see how Rolfo has to track back, just how much ground she has to cover to try and catch up with Cascarino, who's not necessarily dropping to track Rolfo all the way. And with that, I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please give it a thumbs up, consider sharing it on social media and subscribing. And with that, we're out.